Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from passionate Reds, only on All for United.
Hello and welcome to All for United with me, John Foster, MUFC. I'm really excited tonight. It's been a fantastic week for me and a few of the supporters of our women's team. We'll touch on that towards the end of the show. Oh, we've lost somebody already. Oh, that's great. And I'm sure Andy will come back shortly. Got loads of stuff to talk about, loads of contributors on. Vicky's got a drink in her hand as well, so we're loving it. Connor, how you doing, mate? For the third time in like 4 hours. How you doing?
Yeah, nothing's changed. I'm still good, raring to go. It's the last show of the night, so we'll make it a good one.
Awesome. Yeah. No, it's been a busy night for us. John, good to see you again, mate. How you doing?
Good to see you too, John. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Looking forward to the show.
Awesome. Yeah, looking forward to this one. I don't think I've done a show with you for a week or two, so looking forward to that. Andy, I don't know if your screen's working, but we'll give it a go. Can you hear me okay, Andy?
What a disaster.
What a disaster. What a shame, because it was absolutely fine for about 10 minutes. He comes on early. Absolutely fine. Oh, here he goes. Okay. Can you hear me, Andy?
Must be on Virgin Media Wi-Fi.
Is that all? I can say he lives in Manchester, but you're okay. Sometimes we have a bit of trouble with the Manchester Wi-Fi.
That's not the Manchester Wi-Fi, that's Old Trafford.
How are you doing, Academy? You okay?
Yeah, not too bad. Just getting by, I guess.
Getting by. There we go. And Vicky, you've had a busy day. You okay, mate?
Yeah, I've been busy today, but I'm good, thank you. Hello,
All
everyone.
good?
Yeah.
Hello to everybody in the comments. I'll start putting some of your comments on screen. Bear with me. Let me just get some of these on screen as well. So yeah, absolutely loads of stuff to talk about. We're going to start off with a topic on the thumbnail. Rooney, really positive, really excited to see this. Makes absolute complete sense why he's been nominated. Well, not nominated, awarded. Connor, do you want to start off on this subject, and then we can all chip in?
Yeah, it's crazy to me how a lot of our fans. I can see why, with some extent, how underrated he was. I think people forget how good he was as a player. Certainly in his younger years, the reason why we signed him in the first place, and scoring a hat-trick on a debut, you're not going to get much better than that, are you? Especially in the Champions League. And people just forget, I think, that the reason why it's important to me personally, obviously, growing up, I'm, as you know, John, I'm not one for getting names on the back of shirts because I'm always worried they're going to leave the season after. Wayne Rooney is one of the only players I've got. Him and Valencia, weirdly enough. I don't know why I got Valencia, but anyway, they're the only 2 players I've ever had on the back of shirts. And I just think people, even the replies to, and I don't usually look at the replies, but even the replies to the Man United tweet saying, obviously he's been inducted, are ridiculous, overrated, all this kind of thing. Top scorer for England, top scorer for United, 34 goal contributions in 42 appearances in the 09-10 season after Ronaldo and Tevez left. He was carrying that team pretty much. And then people forget in his later years at United, he sacrificed himself for the team, dropping back into deeper roles, dropping back into midfield and this kind of thing. So, yeah, to me, one of the best players we've ever had at this club. And I don't know why when people talk about the conversation in terms of the best players to ever play in the Premier League, Rooney's never involved in these conversations, and I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, John, do you think he's underrated, or what are your thoughts on that? What Connor just brought up?
Yeah, I do think he's somewhat underrated. For me, he was probably the greatest team player, all-round player I saw live for United. I've been watching them for about 20 years or so, and basically he was a street footballer with his attitude, the way he played the game. It was just the ultimate fighter. Obviously, Connor mentioned top goal scorer for England and United. He's only one or 2 players to ever score 200 goals in the Premier League as well. Only Alan Shearer has more than him. But generally his game, he could produce some iconic moments. His overhead kick against City, his volley against Newcastle. Just when you need him most, he was there for you when you needed a goal and that. But I mean, I'm not sure why you need a Hall of Fame for the Premier League. To be honest, it's not something that I think we particularly needed. But nonetheless, he fully deserves to get his award because he was, in my opinion, the greatest England player of the first century. I know you've got a few, like you have Scholes, you have Lampard, you have Gerrard, players like that, but for me, Rooney was possibly the best one that I've seen.
Go on, Callum, mate. What do you think of when you think of Rooney? What's the first kind of things that come to your mind?
So, amazing player. But I was at school when Rooney played for Man United. And I was in year 10 in 2010. And when he asked to leave, and in the way he asked to leave, it made me hate him. And I always had a bit of a chip on my shoulder about Wayne Rooney. And then allegedly he did it again 3 years later. So I just always had that little chip on my shoulder when it came to him. He was obviously an amazing player. It's a big shout to say he was one of the best, probably the best to play for United, or one of the best. Amazing player. There's no doubt what a brilliant player and all-round team player he was. I am very much against the Hall of Fame, though. I think it's ridiculous Americanization of English football, just like the Super League was. I think it's some desperate attempt to try and commercialise a sport that has been commercialised to death already. So, great player, but if it was up to me, we wouldn't have a Hall of Fame at all. I mean, like, where's Dennis Irwin? You know, you've got Ashley Cole in there. Yeah. Dennis Irwin was a better player and won loads more than he did. Why is Matt Letizia a nominee? I've even got my statistics here. He was the 29th highest goal scorer and he's 16th in assists. He might even be the 30th highest goal scorer now and he's 16th in assists. And all he does now is shout conspiracy theories on Twitter. The guy's a moron. And I get the whole no Ryan Giggs thing because of his issues, but why is John Terry a nominee? He called somebody an effing black.
Okay. All right.
I censored myself. I'd have never said it, but he said that, and that's been completely overlooked. I find the whole thing a little bit farcical, and if you're going to do it properly. If not, don't do it at all. So, well done, Wayne Rooney, but if it was up to me, we wouldn't have one at all.
Vicky, go on.
Well, I'm all for celebrating anything. So, I mean, you don't have to look at my house at Halloween to know that I really do celebrate anything and everything. So I don't mind a celebration and appreciation of people playing football. I could understand where Callum is coming from because, like, basically, I guess me and him both watch WWE and we find that the Hall of Fame the biggest farce ever. But he has got some points of where some footballers are like missing, but I'm sure that will have time to come. Though I'm pretty sure Matt Letizia is not getting anywhere quick because now he's gone batshit crazy. But yeah, I completely have all the respect for Rooney, especially what he's doing now, you know. And I think when he had these spats where he fell out with Fergie, etc., it just shows you how passionate he is. He has probably got a big ego, so rightly so. You only need to know what he's like when he goes out for a night out. Even though sometimes now I think it was quite staged, to know that he's all about number one. But if you've done what you've done and you are who you are, and now you're contributing it as a manager very well, I think all credit to him, really. It'd be amazing if he keeps Derby up. I'm not sure if he'll be a manager if Derby goes down.
I think he'll leave. I think he'll probably go elsewhere, won't he? Because there's talk of another points deduction for Derby today. Because of the new owners.
Do you guys think he'll ever become a manager under Man United?
Yeah, maybe, but in a very, very long time, and he's still very far away from proving himself, I think.
Because there's very much
who knows?
Because there's very much talk about what's happening regarding players coming into Man United that for assistant managerial roles. I don't think personally Rooney would ever do it right now if Derby did that.
Would you want to see him come to United to be like an assistant and like maybe like build his way up? Callum shaking his head. What's everybody else's thoughts, Vicky? Would you like to see him, because you brought that topic up? What are your thoughts?
I'd pick him over. I'd pick him over Roy Keane just because I'd imagine Roy Keane would probably end up having restraining orders left, right, and centre.
Roy Keane would probably want to punch all the players, though, wouldn't
he? There'd be no players left with Roy Keane with the assist.
I don't know, but did you hear the rumours about Jap Stan doing it? I'm like, I don't know who I'd be more scared of, Keane or Stan. I'd be like, either one. I'd be like, oh no, I'm really scared. Please just let me turn away and back off really quickly. If I was any player, I'm pretty sure. Sorry.
No, sorry. I was going to say, is that what we need at the club? Like a bit of discipline, or would that be like a bit of an overkill because there's nobody else kind of backing him up with the same kind of mentality? Or what's your thoughts on that?
I think so. But if I was Maguire, I'd be wearing a nappy every day. Sorry, that's my own joke to not laugh at. So, would you guys like to see Jap Stan or Keane on there?
I had a look today. So obviously there's these rumours about a possible Dutch coach coming in, and I think it was something about a former player. I think if I was to probably have anybody, it'd be Van Persie or Van Nistelrooy. They're doing really well coaching over in Holland. So I think the coaching ability is definitely starting to develop over at them teams. So I don't see any harm in having them at Man United. I mean, personally, I think Ten Hag should be allowed to choose his own staff.
Yeah, exactly.
Entirely, but I wouldn't put it past the board to start interfering and doing their own thing.
Yeah, just thinking back to Rooney as manager, I can definitely see it happening, but not yet. It'll be like it's far too soon. There's just no need for. I just don't think it's going to be a win-win situation. I can't see him being in a position where he's going to be anywhere near where we need him to be. Connor, you started this conversation off. Do you want to finish it? Go on, I'll leave it with you.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame because I don't think he's going to keep Derby up. He's done such a good job to get them where they are, but like Callum said, a potential another points deduction. They seem to be falling away now. Reading seem to be picking up some wins, so they're dropping further back now. Whereas before they were getting a bit close to staying up, and now they're dropping away. So it's a shame as well because the rumours were obviously he was offered maybe the Everton job, and he obviously turned that down to stick it out with Derby, and obviously looking like that's going to potentially go down as well. Having said that, Everton could go down as well, so you never know. But yeah, I don't think it won't be in the near future. But what I will just say quickly on that, in terms of the assistant manager, it could work. That kind of treatment. You listen to what a lot of insider people say about West Ham. Ben Foster spoke about this on, I think it was actually on the Happy Hour podcast. I think I listened to it on where he was talking about David Moyes and Stuart Pearce. One bit David Moyes being the nice one, and the kind of the players manager, and Stuart Pearce was the Roy Keane type. On the players constantly for minor things and things like that. So maybe that is what United model could go with. You've got somebody, the manager, as kind of the friendly one, like Ollie was in many ways, the friendly one with the players and that kind of thing. And then you've got like your little bulldog as your assistant manager to lay down the law, so to speak. But yeah, it's not going to be anytime soon.
I do see that approach a lot in my line of work, working in retail. It's very often the case where like the store manager would be the one that does things behind the scenes. Is all that the happy person who looks at the figures, and it's your assistant manager on the shop floor who's running around that everyone's scared of, and potentially that could be the way. I'm not saying it's the way forward, but it's not uncommon. Let's put it that way. Go on, Callum, mate. I can see you smiling on that. Did you want to come in on it, or did you want to move on to the Old Trafford, or lead into the Old Trafford refurbishment?
No, I'll just go into my topic. I guess it's probably old news, but I've not been on a video, so you can all wait for me. Yeah, I wanted to give my opinion on the whole rebuild, demolish, or refurb Old Trafford thing. I think it's right to make it clear that I don't really want Old Trafford to be demolished. and I'm definitely more in favour of a complete refurb or a modernisation of the stadium. But a lot of people seem to be very, very, very against it being demolished and rebuilt, or at least being rebuilt like in a similar way to Spurs' stadium. I wouldn't be against it at all. I prefer a modernisation, but people keep using the excuses, well, we'll lose our history or whatever. Well, there's many parts of the ground that we could easily keep with a refurb. I mean, when Old Trafford was first built, obviously the tunnel that the players came out is in the middle of the pitch. That's been kept for over 100 years. You've got the Munich tunnel, you've got the Munich clock, you've got the statues, you've got all parts of history within the ground that could definitely be kept, even with a complete rebuild. So I don't have an issue with it at all. I know a lot of people seem to, but I think there's a little bit of an over-the-top reaction, which is crazy for me to say, really. But I think so many people are just trying to say, oh, the Glazers are going to ruin our history, and they've already ruined it. They've long ruined that with the debt they've placed on the club and the money that they take out and the way they use the club. Personally, I think it's a PR exercise. I think they just want something else to be spoken about, obviously with a lot of protest talk coming back. But if new owners were to come in and they were serious about a revamp and a modernisation of the club as a whole, including the training ground and the academy and the players and the coaching and everything, I wouldn't be against a similar rebuild to Old Trafford as Spurs' stadium. Just wondering what your thoughts were, because I'm getting the impression a lot of people are more to modernising it than completely rebuilding it, whereas I'm kind of half and half. I don't think I'd be against either, because I think the amount of money that it's going to cost to modernise the ground, because the Glazers have left it in such a state for so long, it's going to cost that much. So surely it'd be best if we just spent that tiny bit more by completely rebuilding it in a way that Bayern Munich did. You know, Bayern Munich and Juventus never lost their history. Tottenham Hotspur didn't really have any, I guess, but you know, these big clubs in Europe never lost their history. So there's no reason to suggest Man United would. So just wondering what you all thought.
Do you want to come in on that, John?
Go on.
Oh, yeah, no, go on, whoever.
Yeah, you can go.
You know, it is the Glaziers, and it is got the NFL vibe to it. They'll build a stadium big enough to have NFL shows here. They'll forget about Man United. They'll build on that ground, and they'll call it, I don't know, the Walmart Stadium. You know, that's exactly what it will be. There'll be no passion, and there will be no love lost. They will try and pretend that there's history, and what they'll turn Old Trafford into a history museum, probably with a cinema, probably with some sort of shopping stuff going on, maybe even a bit more of a hotel. If you think like Americans, that's exactly what's going to happen. Yeah? But, you know, but then they're all going to build a stupid statue of all of them one day, and they're going to have them all, like, we're all going to just walk there and just throw eggs on it. You're going to have...
Some people will do a lot more than that, I think.
Well, I don't want to know, but but can you just, if you want to be cynical, but you want to be peppy about it, they'll make Man United money because they want Man United not to lose money. We're not going to take money from you anymore. They'll get a massive loan and stuff like that. But let's all just, like, this is me being really negative. But I'm pretty sure we'd all love the stadium because we'll all walk up and grab our pints, sink it down. We'll watch it fill up, and then we'll all just like go, well, this isn't a can of pills or whatever it is. And we can all go to the toilet nicely.
And be able to use our phones because there's never any signal in the stadium.
Oh, it'll have 5G by then.
I'd like to. I don't think they've got 3G yet in Old Trafford. I think the main thing to add to that though is I don't think. I mean, the Glazers will never fund this. This will be either
they'll get a ridiculous loan.
It'll either be done by loans and putting the club up on some kind of stock exchange. It'll riddle the club with even more debt, or it'll be a complete PR exercise where none of it's true, and they're just using it to, you know. Don't forget, I think that Neil Ashton. I think he's still there. It wouldn't surprise me if it's all PR exercise just to try and keep any sort of bad press about the Glazers or the board away. I don't think there'll be anything happening to Old Trafford other than the lick of paint that they gave it last summer and maybe a cleaner of Trafford Council going up and around the ground.
But it costs 10 million just to keep it running.
Yeah, exactly. The Glazers will not spend money that they don't have to. And this is the danger. The stadium is falling well behind, and the infrastructure of the entire club, including the training ground, is falling way behind everyone else in the Premier League. The Glazers will not fund this. They will take out loan after loan after loan. If they are going to do it, riddling the club with more debt. Meanwhile, they'll be taking dividends. We spent in the last 12 years £800 million just on servicing the debt. Imagine how that could have been spent. It's disgraceful. So I don't think it'll happen anyway. But if it does, the club will be in a very, very poor position, I think. I think it'll only happen if the Glazers sell up, and the Glazers aren't going anywhere, unfortunately.
No, because Man United is worth too much money.
Well, look at how many people are queuing for Chelsea. It'd be nice if they could do that for United. Well, that's a whole other debate.
Go on, John. You have your say on this, and then I'll ask kind of a bit of a twist to the question.
Yeah. Well, basically, I was reading an article from Andy Mitten from the day or two ago, and he was making the claim about, looking at what Real Madrid and Barcelona are doing, to rebuild their ground and all that, to, change the skeleton and all that. And he was speaking about building up the South Stand. Now, obviously, there's been some technological advances over the past decade or so, which might make it possible. And but obviously, what needs to be done? Obviously, we'd love to keep Old Trafford where it is and rebuild it. Increase the capacity. Whether we can build over the railway over time will tell. But I think it might be a challenge to do that. And what I want and what we should all want as supporters is to have the best stadium possible for Manchester United, one that's futuristic in the way it used to be in the 90s and even the early 2000s. We can look at potentially, more safe standing. Andy Mitten mentioned you could possibly make the whole Stretford End safe standing, and how incredible that would be. Now, whatever option there is going to cost significant amounts of money, and it, for me, does need major redevelopment. I don't want to build another stadium, but you can't ignore it for the men's team. But we'll have to see what the plans are when they come out, see what the best option is there. But another side I want to talk about, obviously, you, John, and Connor, we obviously big followers of the women's team, and basically, for me, we go to LSV and the infrastructure there is brilliant. It's a modern ground and all that, and it's a good place to go to. However, it is a bit out of the way. You look at what City have done; they've built an academy stadium close by. For me, I would support the building of a second ground for the reserves for the women's team. For that way, it will perhaps make it easier for people to come to it. Obviously, we'll touch on the game at Old Trafford on Sunday. But for me, if you have a women's ground at Old Trafford, you might have more chance of an increase in attendances and that over the course of the season. And there's obviously plenty around the stadium to make that possible. And for me, that's what we should be looking to do. So, yeah, that's my perspective on it.
Yeah, I will just jump on that because you just mentioned that the women's team. It is something that we've been looking at and crying out for a long time. Even getting a stadium more local to Manchester than what it is now. One more easily accessible, even if it's still the same distance in mileage. Just something that's got like easy transport. So to get a smaller stadium right next to Old Trafford or a part of that complex would be absolutely change everything. You really would. I guess it's just weighing up their options of completely knocking it down and starting from scratch, and potentially losing that history. Although I do agree with Callum completely on his point, just weighing it up, isn't it? But yeah, I would love to see a complex where you can walk in and you have multiple stadiums in one area, and everyone actually be together. That would be like an ideal scenario. I just wanted to flip it around a little bit, Connor, just to kind of put like a spin on it from like Glazer's point of view. So we had a fans forum months ago, and Old Trafford refurbishments was obviously brought up. Now, obviously, there's a difference between being refurbed and actually being demolished and rebuilt. But is this just like kind of like the Glazers' way of like thinking to themselves, like, well, the fans want to modernise it. Do we go the extra mile and give them not just a refurbishment but a brand new stadium? Obviously, not looking at it the way as a lot of Man United supporters want to look at it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely on the agenda. I can say that, and the Glazers have been buying up land around Old Trafford for a few years now, anyway. So they're definitely looking at something. Now, what that is, that might not impact in the immediate because these things take time, but they've definitely been buying land in and around Old Trafford. They've been trying to buy even more, but I think they've been denied on a couple recently, from what I've heard. So they are buying up land around where the stadium is, and it's definitely on the agenda, and it has been for the previous forums of these meetings that have been had with these. I don't even know what they call fan representatives. It's definitely been on there. Now, it's weirdly enough, I actually agree that, and I'm pretty sure it's factual as well, that longer term, it's actually going to be cheaper to build a new stadium than it is to modernise this one, because it's, as Callum said, because it's been left for so long. If you modernise it now, you're going to be modernising it again in 5-10 years, and then you're going to be doing it again in 5-10 years. If you build a new stadium now, you can. I think we said this on the show on Sunday. You can almost future-proof it for the next 10, 15, 20 years, and you wouldn't have to keep renovating it every 5 years. So it might actually be cheaper to build a new one. And I'm not saying I want Old Trafford to be knocked down. The other issue we've got with that, and this is all opening up a whole other conversation, so I will keep this brief, but we spoke about this on Sunday as well. If you knock Old Trafford down, we've got to have a new location built before we move, because there's no grounds up in the northwest where we can play that's suitable. So you're not going to go and play at like, I don't know, Stockport or something. You need a ground that's 70,000.
You're not going to share cities, are you?
Exactly, and the only other ones up that north, you're looking at
Bolton.
Yeah, you're going really far up north, Sunderland, Newcastle, and that ain't going to happen, is it? And Wembley's too far as well. So there would need to be a place where you could build the stadium and still have Old Trafford running at the same time. So that's complicated. The whole thing is complicated. If you're looking at expansions, you've got the railway line right behind the South Stand, so that's going to be expensive to try and build over it. Whatever happens, it's going to be expensive, and the Glazers will look at it as whichever way is the cheapest. And I hate to say it, but I do think it's going to be doing what City have done. Like John said, when we went there for the women's team over to the Academy Stadium, I hated it so much because I loved what they've built over there. It's a brilliant complex, what they've got with the Etihad, and it is like a little mini village, everything they've got there with all the different stadiums. So if Man United can replicate that in some little way, I'd love that for our team. So I think it'd be brilliant.
Can I just say, like, it's almost like the two towers of Wembley, that sort of thing. When that went, that was quite like heartbreaking when they bought the new Wembley Stadium. So that's sort of like the nostalgic feeling of taking Old Trafford away. If there could be anything that I would hate most, is like the Sir Alex Ferguson stand, the Stratford stand, all these sort of things where people have gotten and just like, you see it on their Twitter profiles. This is where I'm at. I'm in like the elite area of being a Man United supporter. Then when that gets taken away, I can see them sort of going, where's my oomph where I get to say, oh yeah, I was a Stretford ender and etc. They all talk about the K stand and except like Gary Neville, oh yeah, I used to watch football in the K stand and all that sort of thing, and then you're just going to say, well, that's going to get taken away. If you can twist it into like the new stadium, into that sort of stuff, it'd be interesting to see if they could win fans over by that way. But like Callum says, this could just be all a PR stunt, and we can all be smelling the men's toilets while we're in the stand. For a very long time.
I've been I've been offered some very strange things in the men's toilets.
Oh God.
Yeah, I'm sure that's going to happen with the new stadium.
So can I
It
just
matters what stadium you're in, because I was being in Wembley and I was offered some weird things in those toilets too.
Yeah, well, there's more got to be said now.
Right. Can we just?
So can I just jump in there? It's worth mentioning that there have been times where stands have been demolished at Old Trafford before, and there's a page on Facebook when that was real Stretford Ender. The old Stretford End was demolished 30 years ago. Now, partly it was due to Hillsborough, you needed safe standing and that. But there are some people who miss the old Stretford End, and don't think the Stretford End now, although we would still see it as, brilliant and all that. To some, it's not the same as it was. The Sir Alex Ferguson stand was demolished in the mid-90s as well. There's hardly anything. I think it's only the tunnel by the dugouts is the only relic almost of the old stadium. So, I'm not saying I want us to build another stadium, but you can't allow the Saudis to get in the way and of redeveloping. And I think if you have to knock stands down again and that kind of thing, and or maybe take a phase approach and that, then it's got to be considered if you want to have a world-class stadium.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, John. Is that what you would kind of like to see then? Just like knock one stand, like a stand down at a time, and then just revamp that area?
Well, you'd like to. I think you'd like to try and see how much of it you can keep almost and redevelop it from within. But like I mentioned, the South Stand, for example, so we can build on top of it, or maybe you can. But there was an example, like I mentioned, the Sir Alex Ferguson stand in the 90s, that they had to knock that down and push the stand back in order to build it up. How much the railway will be an issue, we just don't know yet. That's why I want to see what the plans are. To see, I mentioned, I want to. Go on.
Right. Is the houses behind the train station that's the actual issue?
So yeah, John, I grew up round there. I grew up in Gorshill.
Yeah.
It's the houses behind the stadium, Vicky's right, but it's the railway as well. And
I know.
Trafford Council had, like, United have tried to do it. Yeah, like they tried to do it originally when they redeveloped Old Trafford nearly 20 years ago. They wanted to do the same on the other side.
They did
because they couldn't extend because of the railway and the houses behind.
But I think that they actually had that discussion where they were going to get permission in 2006, where they were going to try.
That's what I mean. Yeah,
the railway line underground.
Yeah, so
but it was the houses that became the issue.
Yeah, so the problem was Trafford Council effectively couldn't find a way round both the housing issue and the railway. The railway could have probably been sorted in some kind of way, but Trafford Council still got in the way with that. Then the houses, because I think at the time a lot of them were council houses, so they were able to possibly be bought out and the people living there rehoused. Now I know that because my dad used to live in one of them houses, so literally right behind the stand, he used to live in one of them. So I think that there was so many logistical issues around it that United just said, right, we've got a 76,000 seater stadium, it'll do, don't worry. But now it's hitting a point that the season ticket waiting list is astronomical. Even in United's current state, people are still waiting for season tickets, including me. So I think if they were to look at a way around it, I don't know what they'd do for that season, because obviously Spurs went to Wembley. I can't see Man United going to the Etihad. I don't think they'd want to do it. So there's just so many logistical issues.
Was there that discussion where Liverpool was going to share grounds with Everton at one point? And that was like...
Oh, yeah.
So are you saying, Callum, that because obviously since then there's been some technological advance, say you could potentially do it Oh, are you saying you don't think that's possible, or do you think it might be?
I do not act like it's been an issue for so long. I don't see that issue changing.
Mm.
I don't see how United can extend the South Stand with that railway and them houses there. I think the railway is a bigger issue than the housing, if I'm honest. I
No.
just don't see them being able to do it.
Oh well, the railway is not the issue because they were rightly given some permission to do the underground movement if they were going to fund it themselves, which obviously they won't. But it's more to do with the noise pollution backing up over to the houses.
I do. Maybe it was years ago then, but I was always told that the railway was a major issue. I think it was a bigger issue than the houses, although the houses were an issue as well.
Well, will the railway be Traffic Council, or will it be National Rail?
Probably National Rail, I imagine. I'm not sure.
John, we'll move on. We'll move on to something slightly different. We're going to talk about one of my favourite players. Now, I'm not on this channel very often. I'm usually on the sister channel on the women's side, but I'm a massive fan of Bruno Fernandes. John, you wanted to talk a little bit about possible contract extension.
Yeah.
Come on, I'll put up the conversation. We'll talk a bit about Bruno.
Yeah. So basically, I think it's been more or less confirmed that Bruno is due to sign another contract in the last 2 to 3 hours, and it's most likely he's going to sign it when he comes back from international break, most likely. Now, it's interesting because I'm a fan of Bruno. I think he obviously revolutionised the sides when he initially signed, and over the first 18 months or so. This season, like a lot of players, he hasn't played to his full potential. You know,
why do you think that is, John? What suddenly changed?
It could be a number of factors. It could be burnout because he's played so much between when he came and the summer. Obviously, we played virtually the same season with one fewer month last year, and he played virtually all the games. And that took it out of him, and then you have the summer break a couple of months. I do wonder whether the Ronaldo signing has impacted on him because he was the main man before Ronaldo came. Now, their relationship in terms of their playing wise isn't great at times. But I think, like most of our players, I don't like his moaning. You know, he's sulking. You know, moaning at the referee all the time. Obviously, you want your players to be in the face of the referee to make decisions that might favour you potentially. But I think because it's constant that he's not the same player he was. But for me, it's interesting that they've announced this before they've announced a new manager. Which is interesting. I'm not 100% sure it should be that because really you should look at getting the new manager in and then they making a decision in terms of what players are willing to keep and what they're wishing to sell. That I'm not saying Bruno will be sold, but overall, I think Bruno is important for the future of the team going forward. Obviously, we've had a bad season, but when you're looking at a rebuild, or if we are to rebuild, he'll be an important player for us, I'm sure, over the next 2 to 3 years or so.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly jump off the back of it because to me, I'm going to get really annoyed here because maybe it's lack of sleep or what, but he has fully deserved this contract. And I'm sorry, I don't buy this complete shit that he's had a bad season. Quite honestly, just saying how it is good because he's on 9 goals, 14 assists. Now that is still good, pretty much good numbers for a team that has been very poor this season. And we can't all say that we've been good this season because we haven't. You look at the chances created the last few months, really. the amount of draws because our forwards cannot finish. Now, Bruno Fernandes being one of them, granted, he's had a few good chances in recent games. But I'm just not. I think it's because he set the bar so ridiculously high with his numbers. Before, when he came to us from Portugal, the numbers that he was putting up, and he came to United, and we thought he's never going to do that in the Premier League, and he did. That foot, you hit the ground running straight away. And this season, like I said, his numbers are still brilliant. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not all in the numbers. And I do agree with what John was saying. There's certain aspects of his game I'm not a particular fan of, like some tackles. Just get it's better if you get up and just play the ball. Stop. You spend half an hour, rolling on the floor. If you get up and try and win the ball back, you might get it back. So there's certain aspects that do frustrate me. But when you look at it, I'm not going to get into the whole wage structure thing because we could be here all night talking about some of our, players that are on ridiculous wages. And I think this is rumoured to be 240k. That's only a little bit more. That's still more than what Mo Salah's on at Liverpool. It just, again, it goes back to what we're saying with our wage structure and things like that. But he's fully deserved it. He's been one of our best players the last 3 years since he's come in. And like I said, I don't think he's had that bad of a season. He's been one of the brighter sparks, albeit maybe not to his world-class levels. But we've been a bad team this season. Look at how inconsistent we've been. But at least he's still trying to make things happen. And, all this crap, quite honestly, about losing possession just does my head in. So I'm very defensive when it comes to Bruno because I just don't buy this, that he's had a poor season. So it's deserved. It's deserved.
I don't think he should have a new contract.
Ooh. Is there a twist? Go on, Callum.
I don't think. You could talk about him deserving it. Yeah, he's had a very good season, but his current contract already runs out in 2026, and he's already on 180,000. Now I get rewarding form, and I get rewarding how well he's been and brilliant he's been for United, but how much money do these players need, man? He's already on £180,000 a week. For Christ's sake. I wish I could get rewarded with an extra 60 grand. I just don't. I just think there's more pressing issues to deal with. Now, the only thing I can think is maybe the new possible manager coming in has given the green light. I'm not against him getting a new contract. I just think it wasn't that necessary. They're rewarding him for his performances and stuff. I just don't think it was that needed, to be honest. I think get the contracts that you need to sort out done first, and leave Bruno for now. I think you could have probably waited another season.
Can I just say that so the Bruno talk was happening at the beginning of the summer transfer, at the beginning of the summer break, and then they stopped the conversation because of negotiation with the pricing, and then said they would come back to it. And then then they were re-talking about the negotiations late November, just when Ollie decided to, obviously Ollie got sacked. And we all know how much of an impact that had on any player. I think Bruno was the one that had the biggest impact of Ollie leaving. Obviously, he didn't think he deserved to leave. He didn't think it was the right thing for him to be sacked. But everyone to their own. I don't want to do the Ollie in or Ollie out discussion, but I will say that it was something that's come back in play just because it was paused just then. It was paused in the summertime. I do think Bruno actually is one of the biggest personalities in the dressing room, on the pitch, and he is someone. I know he's been whinging and whining. It's almost like he sort of mirrors Ronaldo sometimes with that. But no, I think he's a very important player. I feel like when you go and look at his assists and things like that, you can't ignore it. You cannot ignore it. And you can say he's there, a bit like Fred. He goes, I may not perform brilliantly every time, but I give myself 100%. I know that sometimes sorry. I've only had one, Jen. So I know that when it comes to Fred, sometimes he sees a shiny object and he gets distracted. But when it comes to you're talking about Bruno, I think you want that player on your pitch. I'm sorry, you want him on your pitch. And he is someone, that's why he's always the one who's given the captain's arm after Maguire. But we're not going to go talk about the captain's arm, and because we're not talking about Maguire tonight, okay? But in my eyes, I'm not.
Can I slightly butt in then? Because a couple of you have mentioned that. The whole he moans and whinges. Bruno's such an emotional player, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing for him. I think he could probably control it better, definitely.
That's a
But
very
you're
positive thing
you're
to
definitely
say,
right. You'd say again, sorry.
It's a very positive thing to say.
I don't know why. I'm being really positive tonight. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if I like it, to be honest.
It's the stream. We build up the love tonight.
I don't think it's a bad thing at all. He's a very emotional player, but guess who else was? Rooney was, and he did all right for himself. The thing is,
Cantona, there's another one. He was
exactly.
player.
There was so many of them in the past, and
Yeah.
I think as the United career progressed, they learned to control it, and I think if Bruno controls that a little bit better over the next couple of years,
So
we could see something very different.
do you think the new manager is going to give the insight and help Bruno progress next season?
I think the manager will have a role in that. I think the problem with that is I don't think there's other senior players to help him control it. I think he's going to have to really find it within himself a little bit to do it, which is a bit of a shame, really. But I think he's probably got it in him to sort it. I think he's probably one of the players at the minute that are really, really annoyed with everything that's going on. But like I say, he is just such an emotional player. But if he can control that, I want him moaning in the referee's ear. Like, that's not a bad thing. Like, all these clubs and teams in the past, like the Chelsea team from 04 to 06, they were all horrible. They were constantly whinging at the referee, asking for fouls and red cards. If United want to go back to winning stuff, they need to stop being nice, and they need people like Fernandes constantly wanting fouls and constantly wanting the referee to give them free kicks and butt the other team. We need to be horrible, and United need to show that bit more desire, and by doing so, they'll start learning from the likes of Bruno by moaning at the referee. Yeah, it's a bit annoying whinging at times when he doesn't need to, but I'd rather him do that than not do that, I think.
Don't mind some moaning. I'm a moaner, but I don't want to see arms flapping up and down going, why?
I mean,
I can't believe I just said that, actually. That could be weird.
We all heard it. I'm the biggest negative person on this channel, so, I just didn't want to say what you said.
I think it sounds worse coming from a woman. Anyway.
Moving on.
You was going to bring in a different kind of twist on this about why potentially he's offered a contract now.
You speak to me, John, are you?
Yeah, just in the final chat there.
Well, yeah, Callum does make a good point in terms of why. His contract it wasn't up for renewal soon. I get that. I just think when you look at, and this is a problem that I don't think is any fault of Bruno Fernandes, but when you look at other players that are earning so much more around you that are performing way worse than you are, I would be knocking the manager's door down and going, hang on a minute, I'm not having him who sat on the bench earning 400k a week, and you got other players, I'm not going to name them because you all know I'm on about, who's earning an absolute fortune, and he's not.
There's nothing wrong with his agent asking the question. I'm sure. To be fair, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, so I was just going to say, I back up your point. I do agree. I think it's a bit weird because his contract was so far away, and it's a 5.5-year deal. I think he's looking to extend anyway. I get that, but I also think, like I said, when you look at the money he was on compared to others in our squad, he's right to ask the question, him or his agent, whoever has asked the question. I don't think he's probably gone in and go, hang on, I want you to pay me this. It probably is his agent going, right, look at what my client's done for the past 2.5 years for your club. Come on. So I get it, but and it is deserved. So
cool. Just one last thing on that. Could it just be the case that United is trying to forward think a little bit? And I do agree. Actually, I think he's more likely to be what you guys have said about, he is underpaid compared to other players on the in the squad. So I completely get that. But how many times have we seen United get into a position where there's only 2 years left on someone's contract and they haven't signed? Is it someone just trying to snap him up a little bit? I could understand maybe for 2024 maybe, but 2026 is quite a lot. But are they just forward thinking? Callum, I just have to give you that one. Is it just? I'll try to defend United here, trying to think, okay, we want to keep this fantastic player. We want to keep him. And
You're not defending United. You're just playing devil's advocate.
yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, forward planning and all that garbage, but United haven't got any kind of nous about them to even know what forward planning is. Like, his contract's up in 4 years. If you're doing forward planning, you're looking at it with maybe 3 years, maybe even 2.5.
Yeah.
Because they're not. The thing is, this is what I mean. It can't be forward planning because they're doing nothing but giving him a higher wage. His contract isn't getting longer. They're just improving the terms of his contract.
It's longer by a year, longer by 1 year.
Do you know what? That kind of goes into my subject that I was half bringing up.
Go
on then. You go now then.
I was looking at a few articles today and a couple of tubes about a recruitment expert who works with Poch and he's worked with Rangnick. It is Paul Mitchell. He used to work for Southampton, Spurs, but he did work for Spurs up until the point when was it 2020, June 2020, then he handed in his resignation. He had to work, 16 months because Spurs weren't signing anyone, but they said you have to work 16 months. And so he did it. And then he went with the Red Bull team. And I think he went to New York. He worked under Rangnick, but then obviously he worked with Poch with Southampton. He done some amazing signings for them. He's now he's working under Monaco, but he's practically getting sacked along with a couple of other people, so I've heard. There we go. But he has made some really good signings. He brought Luke Shaw up into the Premier League. Robinas, he done Salio Morinini. I'm never going to say it right.
I just had that name up as well, and now I can't find it.
He done Tony.
I couldn't say it either.
Yeah, Tony Pochettino. He done Alvarez, who worked with Ten Hag in Ajax, whatever. And then he also he signed Son for Spurs.
Yeah.
So and he also done Trippier, if I remember rightly. And so he's done some amazing signings for some really good teams, and he's bought them cheaply. So if we were going to talk about someone coming to work with Poch or Ten Hag, because he's worked under both, this guy should. And considering he's not going to be working, I think it would be great support, along with whoever he signs up with. Because the one thing that Ten Hag would bring is the fact that he does bring other people to the team, which Rangnick probably would not object about, because if he's got a good support system, right, like so many people, including the recruitment stage, then all he has to concentrate is the coaching. Now, that's what Man United need coming forward. We need someone to be a coach, not someone who has to sort of babysit their assistant manager and their technical manager and their director, and who's helping him with the terrible, terrible people that bring us on with the big money fighting stuff with our scouting team, because that's our problem. We're getting players that are a bit too old, a bit too much money, and someone I feel like Paul Mitchell, Phil Mitchell.
We've all been on the gins.
It would bring, something positively forward. And I think ever since we saw that picture with Rangnick and Paul Mitchell, what was it? The under-21s.
Under-23s, I think.
That it was. I think everyone thought, well, I guess he's coming forward, and then he's going to work with Poch, but he actually has worked with Rangnick. So I feel like that is the talking point right now. If you want to talk about the problems with salaries, if you want to talk about bringing in younger players and being cheaper, I think this guy should be the guy for Man United. Oh my God, that was my subject.
I think if United bring in Paul Mitchell, it'd be our biggest signing in the summer, regardless of who we brought in as a player.
Yes.
bringing Paul Mitchell in would be, and keeping Rangnick as the consultant and bringing Paul Mitchell in, I think would be our best signing of the summer, regardless of who comes in. I've just got some of his signings up here. He bought Mane to Southampton, Bertrand, Fraser Foster, 18-year-old Dele Alli to Tottenham. How good was he? Trippier, Son, Alderweireld. You've got the Leipzig ones there. You've got Haidara, Mateus Cunha, Marcelo Sarachi, Mukiele. Like, these are all like those ones at Southampton propelled them to Europe. The ones at Tottenham propelled them to the Champions League, some of which got them to the Champions League final. Leipzig are now consistently in the Champions League and up there with the best teams in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the guy has recruited these players and helped the managers along the way to make them the best possible team they can be. Some might have reached the ceiling in terms of the clubs that they are because of who they are and the leagues that they're in, but he's propelled those clubs to places that fans probably never thought they'd even get to, especially more likely Southampton. Regardless of who comes in, whether it seems to be the two favourites are obviously Pochettino and Ten Hag, he'd be able to work with both of them, I think. And Vicky kind of got it spot on at the past. Obviously, when we had Ferguson, he was just insanely. He was just a genius, wasn't he? He controlled every aspect of the club. But unfortunately, that's just not the case in modern football. And now you do need a structure. You need a footballing structure and teams around you to be able to deal with all the other stuff within football. So you don't have a manager anymore. You have a head coach who does the coaching. You have a technical director who will look at whatever he looks at, or then you'll have a head director of football. Then you'll have consultants. Then you'll have head of recruitment. You'll have all these separate teams that deal with and have delegates to go to these different parts of the club to help it grow and move forward and progress as the modern game carries on. So if you were to look at Ten Hag, which the rumours are he has signed a contract with United today, if he comes in and then you have the likes of Paul Mitchell, who as soon as you saw a picture of him and Rangnick, you knew that the rumours were going to start. And with the rumours about Monaco possibly getting rid of a few people, Paul Mitchell should be at Man United tomorrow. I'd be signing him before Ten Hag, if I'm completely honest. Ten Hag was always my manager of choice, but I think if you bring in Paul Mitchell, have Ten Hag, and sign the right players, which is the thing I'm sceptical about still because of the board with the funds and things, but if you were to do that, I'd believe United could be at least in a much better position. I still think next year is probably a little early, but it looks like there's some kind of forward planning in place at least, which seems to be the case for the first time in, a decade, amazingly. So yeah, get Paul Mitchell in, Ten Hag, and that would be probably one of our best summers.
Do you know what's really great? I think he's fluent in 4 or 5 languages. But if you've ever seen any interview with him, he can just sell you ice to an Eskimo. He's so smooth. He's so calm. I think he's definitely a good shout. I feel like it would be part of the gold mine of the future of Man United that we're all quite sceptical about, but hopeful. And let's just be honest. Let's all say we're more hopeful than we are. Like we're all reassuring ourselves, like, oh, it'll be all right. I think that this guy is exactly what we're looking for because he's worked with Mark Overmars, Ebba van der Sar. He's a great asset for Man United, and if we get him, I'll be just excited as I would if we get Ten Hag.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right, to be fair.
I bought myself a bold cap to wear.
Wear that at Old Trafford. Yeah, I think, sorry, just to add on to that as well, though, ultimately, my opinion of it is, regardless of who we get in, I think we won't challenge ever again until the Glazers have gone. Again, another debate. But just adding to the signings I saw he made, he brought in Christopher Nkunku, who's now being touted for £75 million. Patrick Schick, who is unbelievable in Germany, and Danny Olmo, who's meant to be one of the up-and-coming central attacking midfielders in Europe. This guy found them all. United have been so awful at signing these huge mental, massive superstars who have all flopped at Man United because they were signed for the wrong reasons. I feel like Paul Mitchell and Rangnick would put a stop to that, and it would be a huge breath of fresh air to see that the right players would be scouted for Ten Hag or Pochettino, but they'd be scouted for that manager the way they want to play. I still think it'll take a couple of years, but it's definitely a step in the right direction, especially with the track record of recruitment that Paul Mitchell's got.
I mean, Paul Mitchell now was banded around when he was looking for a director of football as well. So that's like what you guys are talking about, and it's rightly so. Yeah. Callum, you just made a quote here, and I've written down, "We won't challenge anything until the Glazers are gone." I think that's the title of next week's show. So I think I'm going to have a word to the guys who do all the editing behind the scenes and just get that on the thumbnail for next week, because I think that's. I agree completely for a number of reasons. And
is that my topic for next week? Is it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. But no,
he's also been technical director as well under the Red Bull of New York.
There you go. There's a question on screen. We'll quickly answer that, and then we'll just give the women's team a bit of a shout out at the end as well. From an outsider looking in, do United have many young players breaking into the first team squad? If not, is that an area? Yes, I do.
Yes, they really do.
They really do.
We're in the Youth Cup final. We've got.
Boy, you be jealous.
I'm always very sensitive when it comes to youngsters breaking into the first team. So I've said it a number of times on different shows, so I won't go too much into it now. But John, Connor, feel free to jump in on this as well. I just don't like to put pressure on the players too soon. So, for example, we're 5th or 6th in the league, for example. That's the kind of level that we're at the moment. We want to get to the first. We want to start winning Premier League titles. Want to win Champions League. I don't think we should be looking at the likes of Elanga or Savage as it is this season, Mebry last season, or whatever. I don't think we should be looking at these players and saying, right, come into the first squad, take us to a league title. I don't think we should be putting this kind of pressure onto these players. I don't think we're in a position as a club or as a first team squad where they can come in and be nurtured into that. But it doesn't mean that they haven't got the ability. It just means that I don't think that they're at the level just yet. I think that they can definitely get to that level. But I just don't think we should put so much pressure onto them that, the likes of Rooney at such a young age coming through, it's almost unheard of. You just don't get many quality players coming through so quickly.
Yeah,
go on, you want to jump in? You want to jump in? Go on. That's just my take of it.
I'll just quickly make a point. I've been to quite a few of the 23s this season, and I think we've only got 2, potentially 3 that will actually make it into Manchester United.
Which is quite a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah. Alvaro Fernandez, I think, will make it at some point because we've got gaps at fullback as well, so there's an opportunity there. I think Hannibal will make it. And then you're looking at probably Jimmy Garner out on loan. Other than that, everyone, I think there's a little bit of a misconception. Everyone in the under 23s and the 18s and the 16s and the 40s, however many you go to watch, are talented players. They all are. But it doesn't necessarily mean you can make the jump from 23s to the first team. It's completely different. When you're playing in front of 1,000 of us at LSV to then 75,000 at Old Trafford on a bigger pit and everything else, it's completely, and the pressures are completely different. When you're playing academy football, you're playing for the Youth Cup final. Obviously, we're in that, and I hope we do win that. But in the league system, you've got like West Ham top of the league, and because you're not going for you want to win the title, but it's about player growth rather than the actual wins. So when people look at our academy, why are we 6th in the league? Because 1/2 of our players are out on loan that would be in the 23s, and 2 because it's about the growth of the players rather than the actual wins of the team. So we've got a lot of promising youngsters, but so is every other team in the Premier League. They're all talented. They wouldn't have got to that level if not. But I'd be amazed if more than 2 or 3 make it.
Yeah, that's a really good point to end on. But I just wanted to add something really quickly to that though. A lot of people seem to think that if they haven't made it at United, they haven't made it. But don't forget, these are still professional footballers going elsewhere to play professional football. The fact that they've even done that elsewhere, if they've done it at United, good God, that's a tip top of your career. But just doing it as a professional footballer is an amazing thing in itself. I think 2 or 3, I personally think it's probably a couple more. I actually think Charlie Savage could be in there as well. Charlie McNeil, I think they're a couple more. Charlie McNeil, Charlie McNeil, Charlie Savage, Alvaro Fernandez, Hannibal. You got Jimmy Garner, and there was one more in the name. Ethan Laird, he's out. I think all these players could make it at United. I genuinely think they could definitely do a very good job in the squad, and some of them possible future first teamers. Like, you're talking 6 players there that could potentially be at Man United for the next 20 years. Like, that's pretty crazy, I think. And
I think James Garner just needs to build up a bit of muscle.
That's the same for a lot of them. Charlie McNeil's the same. He technically is world class, but he's not built for the Premier League yet. A lot of them aren't surety areas, and you're looking at Savage. I don't think is ready. Hannibal is probably close, but a lot of those youngsters are not ready. I don't think. Fully
Take them to Nando's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah, true. I mean, the thing is, though, you got to remember they are only young. Like, I mean, I was probably fat enough at 18 to play for the Premier League, but I wouldn't last the 90 minutes. So, if they just went on my diet of Crave and Nando's, then they'd probably be all right.
Can I just make a quick point off the back of what Callum just said there quickly? And I think I've got the number correct, but it was something that Tony said to us on a show months ago now. About what Callum was saying there, just because they make it into the Football League, it's not a failure for them. They've still made it as professional football. I believe the stat is 16% of all academy products in the Football League, the fourth down to League 2 at the moment, are Academy United graduates. So out of the hundreds and hundreds of players that are now come through Academy, 16% are United graduates.
Do you know why that is, Connor? Because when Ferguson came to United in '86, I think we had like 4 scouts and barely an academy system. And within a year, I think he quadrupled that and said, rip the academy system up and start again because this is shocking. And for Man United...
Well, then Carrington came into play, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Well, we had the clip, didn't we? And then Carrington got developed and built. But that is because of Ferguson. Like, if you think about the players all across from the top division, all through the leagues, from all the way down to probably level 9 or 10, there are old Man United footballers all across it. And that is, in itself, incredible. Like, Man United have got so many players all across the leagues, from Premiership all the way down to the very bottom. So, it's something that United traditionally need to keep hold of, and I think they will do. I think that incredible stat from like the 1930s, where they've had an academy product in the squad every game since, I actually think that's now written into managers' contracts that they have to do that, because that record can never come to an end. Like, that is something that Man United need to be forever proud of. And going back to the point of how many will go through, I genuinely believe these academy products that we've got at the minute are up there with the best we've ever had. And I really think they have all got very bright futures at United, never mind in football. And if they can keep their heads down, work hard, and make the right decisions, then they're definitely going to make it at United, I think.
Well, all I'm going to say with that is that I really like to celebrate the fact that we have such a great youth team coming back. We had a bit of a dip, and now we're coming back to it. We've really got some positive things to talk about when it comes to the youth squad. Very happy with that. Very happy to keep on talking about the past of '92. But I think it's all great stuff. It's all great stuff. It's all great positive things to talk about with Man United. That's one thing that we should be celebrating and appreciating. And yeah, if it's under managers' contracts, that's great, because that's what you should be doing. You should be bringing talent, young talent. I mean, look at Alanga right now, really proving himself. No fear. That's it. He's got his first time into his Sweden squad because of what's happening right now. We should all be really happy about this sort of stuff and really be celebrating it. And drinking my favourite blood orange gin. Here he goes.
We spoke about talking about positivity. We spoke about under 23s. I just want to end the show a little bit with Connor and John, just a couple of minutes each. There is a goal game at Old Trafford this weekend. You've probably seen it on Twitter. It's our women's team. Connor, John, just end the show a little bit about how exciting this week is, and exactly, for anyone who hasn't seen the build up to this, it's been a massive week. We've done 4 shows today alone.
Oh
I
no,
mean,
not
yeah.
there we go.
No, it's,
Nice. That's amazing.
Sorry, what
yeah.
was that, John?
No,
Sorry, I just shut off. What was that?
Am I going on? No, we're talking about the women's game.
Yeah, go on,
sorry,
John.
go for it.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so no, yeah, it's obviously a big moment for the women. It's first time they're gonna play live at Old Trafford in front of a crowd. Obviously, the report is probably 25,000 tickets have been sold, which is absolutely incredible. I mean, usually these Sports Village we only get 1,000 maximum, 2,000 for derbies usually, so to play in front of 25,000, and there's still time for it to go up. And so basically, I've started following the women this year. Went to the derby in October. The Sports Village, just as a one-off, and I fell in love with it. The women's team, if you haven't watched them, they're really good to watch. They play as a team, work for each other, and they play good football. And obviously, it's Mother's Day on Sunday. There's still tickets available, and if you've got nothing to do on Sunday, I highly recommend you get to the ground. Tickets are £6 for adults and £3 for children, so it is cheap. And so if you have nothing else to do on Sunday, I highly recommend you come and see the girls play Old Trafford, and I promise they won't let you down.
Yeah, I really hope not, because it's going to be a bit with all this hype if they do go, especially to Everton as well, because they're not a very good side this year. Although they have got some very quality players, they're just not a very good team. I think it's going to be brilliant. Obviously, John, this is our 4th time talking about it, so I'm going to keep mine brief because I've spoken about this a lot already today. But it's going to be a great occasion for the girl. Some who are United fans. You got Diane Caldwell, growing up with United pictures all around the room. You got players like Jackie Groening. Hasn't scored a goal for United yet. What a time to get a goal would be the weekend. In front of fans at Old Trafford. Ella Toone, Alessia Russo, players that are just live and breathe Man United. These players that I'd love to see the whole team score at the weekend. But if you had to pick a few, I'd love to see Diane score, because I think for her this is probably her once and only chance. She's got a lot of experience now. It's a dream to play at Old Trafford, and she's going to get that chance to get a goal. I think would just be incredible for her. So I really hope that she gets on the score sheet. And just for the players to walk out, even for the players that are not going to get on, because Carrie Jones I think is going to be in the squad, but she's probably not going to get on. For some of those, just to walk out is going to be monumental for them, and I think it's going to be a brilliant day. We're all over in J stand making the noise. Hopefully, there'll be a lot of us. You'll hear Nat and Anthony before you see them anyway. They'll be there from the early hours. So yeah, it's going to be a really good occasion. I just hope as well, because I will just say a lot of people on the men's side have said that the season's over. For the women's, it really isn't. We've essentially got 5 cup finals coming up. We've got to win all 5 games now, and win them good as well, with City on 2 goal difference behind us now. So this game isn't just a big occasion just because it's an occasion. It's a must win, and it's a must win by a few goals as well. We've got to put some goals past these. So it's going to be a good day out. And yeah, I just hope that we do beat City's little record of 32,000, because it's getting close. I spoke to somebody earlier, and she's confirmed that it's about 30 at the moment, between 28 and 30. So can we get an extra couple of thousand and beat? We don't want City having one of the highest record attendances. Come on, we surely we can beat that. So yeah, a couple more thousand and just back the team. Like John said, you won't regret it, because they'll put everything on the line for the shirt.
Also, those in the records, 38,000, isn't it? Or 37. So
yeah. Arsenal and Tottenham got 38,000, I believe. I was at the Etihad when he got 33,000 at the start of our 2nd season, which was 3 seasons ago. But yes, it's such a massive thing for the players to go out to Old Trafford. They've been there once before, but with no fans. So for us to be there supporting them, it's just a massive thing for women's football, and especially our players that we support. So I've spoken enough about it, but I think Connor and John just kind of summarised that really well. So it's a massive day for the women's team. So please get behind them. If you're not going to the game, just tweet about them, raise awareness, show your support, because it doesn't matter what gender you are. They're playing for the shirt, they're playing for the badge, and they deserve every bit of support that we can give them. Fantastic show tonight. Ran over slightly, but really positive, really upbeat. Lots of subjects there that we covered. Sorry, Andy has kind of gone somewhere. I think his internet kind of gave up on him, but we'll try and get him back on again very soon. Vicky, I think that's the first time I've done a show with you, so thank you very much for coming on.
Oh, thank you. I just, I will say, like, I was really nervous tonight because I haven't been on for a while, and I was really underprepared. And but thank you all for putting up with me. You've all been really cute.
Lots of nice comments about you in the comments as well, which is great. Callum, always good to
It's
do.
okay. I pay them later.
Good to see you again, Callum, mate. So I'll see you again hopefully next week or the week after.
Yeah, you'll see me around sometime.
No flipper as ever.
And Connor, John, I'll see you in person on Sunday at Old Trafford.
Yeah.
What,
Take
is,
care.
is it on Saturday?
Sunday.
Sunday.
Sunday. Oh, is it on Sunday?
Yeah, around. Is it 12:30 or 12?
Yeah.
Yeah,
12:30.
12:30.
Well, I am up north on Sunday. Ooh.
Drop me a
There we go.
message.
Can I shout out, John, just quickly? So tomorrow on the WFC channel, there's a few of the All for United men's regulars. He doesn't know it yet, but Andrew Wall is on tomorrow with Benny, and Alexi is also making his All for United comeback tomorrow because he's going to watch the women's for the first time on Sunday. So we got a show tomorrow. It's all about Old Trafford and just what Old Trafford means and all of that good stuff. Looking ahead to Sunday, so just thought I'd shout that one out. 7 o'clock tomorrow.
Loads of content coming across both channels. We're quite
Thank you for having me.
No problem, Vicky, and we shall see you again very soon. Thank you, guys.
Bye.